Okay, so like a lot of other people, I'm guessing I have a Colourpop problem as far as like eyeshadows go. So here's a huge stack. I tried to like organize them in some sort of way to show them to you and swatch. So let's get started. Okay, we're gonna start off with the smaller palettes I have. So this is the Ooh La La. I don't know if they've changed the packaging. I feel like they've changed the packaging for maybe both of these, but definitely the Soul. So here's a close-up of Ooh La La. This is a very like Valentine's Day theme palette to me. Here's the thing, I don't like pinks, but I love hot pinks, I love magenta, I love kind of like neon kind of shades. And this to me, the nudes in here, like the nude mattes kind of remind me of the Huda Beauty nudes. So here is Swatches, the top row. I should just start the whole video by saying that I love Colourpop eyeshadows. I think their formulas are fantastic. So we're not going to talk about formula. We're just going to talk about whether or not I want to keep the colors. How about that? Okay, so swatches of Ooh La La. I actually don't know if I want to keep this one. I mean, I really love it. Oh, we're going to keep. Okay, keep. This is Soul, and this one is so good. It screams summer. You can do a really great bronzy eye, like kind of neon eye, orange eye, and then this, oh, so good. So here's swatches of Soul, and we're going to keep this one. Okay, this is the All I See Is Magic. It was one of their first palettes they released, not the first, but one of their first like larger palettes. And this one, okay, maybe in the beginning, it was like one of my absolute favorite Colourpop palettes. And I actually, going into this declutter, I thought this was one that I was absolutely 100% going to keep. But after swatching them, even though I think the formula, again, fantastic, I just realized that these kind of exist in the other palettes that I know for sure I'm keeping. So I'm gonna declutter this. This is like a big deal for me. Like I really did not plan on it, but I think I'm gonna declutter this one. Okay, so here's 3 larger palettes. This is the Perception. This was a Makeup Shayla collab. This one is the I Love Serai. And this one, I think it was just like a collection. It wasn't like a collab. And so we're gonna go through these size palettes now. Okay, first up, Perception, Shayla Colourpop. First of all, the palette drew me in. Like, I mean, come on, packaging, fantastic. And then here is a close-up. Every time I open this up, it makes me like so happy. I just love the shades in here. This shade Titus, I'm someone that loves doing like a kind of gray metallic smoky eye, but I always find that grays go blue on me and I hate it. So this one is so good. Here's a bunch of swatches. The mattes don't swatch well but perform well, and some of the shimmers are like, not the shimmers, kind of the more glittery shades, like foily type shades, are a little flaky, as you can see like top right, but again, blend out beautifully. So keeping this one. Next is Through My Eyes, the I Love Serai Colourpop. I don't know why I have to stop saying Colourpop in this video. Okay, so here we go. This one, again, whenever I look at it, I'm just like, you know when certain palettes are just a little inspiring for you, like, yeah, I really want to do a beautiful look with this. This is one of those. So there are swatches. There's just so many beautiful elements in this palette. You can go teal, green, purple, red smoky, coppery, bronze. There's just so much in here that's great. So this is the Fortune palette. I believe it was like a Fame and Fortune type release, and Fame was more cool toned and Fortune is more warm toned. Although I find this one to be more neutral warm. It doesn't scream warm palette to me. Maybe a little bit in these 6, but the rest are kind of neutral warm to me. And this one, I find that the mattes in here were very dusty. However, they apply perfectly fine. They're just like dusty when you swatch and dusty when you like put your brush in, but they apply just fine. So here's some swatches. Now obviously I haven't been swatching like the entire palette for you because it won't fit, but I really like this one. There's just like a very even mix of texture as far as matte and shimmers, and then as far as like color color families, so I'm keeping this one. Okay, I'm trying to take a mild break by showing you this one. So this is one of the palettes. First of all, hate this outside packaging. I didn't have a choice. It was one of those where you make your own palettes and they just send you any palette, but oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. Okay, next. This is an excellent deal though. I think it's, you can choose 6. Is it like 24 shadows for $44? But like, it's amazing. Because of the quality of Colourpop shadows, $44 for a palette I think is absolutely worth it if you get to choose your own shades. Like, this was like the best idea ever. I'm not gonna go through everything in here. I'm just showing you that this is an option and that I highly recommend it. I picked every single like duochrome shade that they had because those are stunning. And I went for like greens and warm tones. I would say most of these here are shimmer. There's maybe like 20% matte, but again, this took forever to create too, because when you're doing this, you're like Googling swatches of like every single shade to find out like what you would like. So, okay, this is the Element of Surprise, one of their like more initial releases. They don't have the shade names on there. As I was swatching this, I was kind of like, why don't I reach for this more? Because I actually thought this was going to be in my declutter pile. Here's swatches. Okay, bottom left. Like, what is that? That is so gorgeous. So I need to figure out if I have that in another palette. I mean, otherwise, I probably would declutter. I think everything else in here, I have like something similar. So this is going in the maybe until I figure out what shade that is. This is the Give It To Me Straight palette. Another one that I thought I was probably gonna declutter, but upon swatching and playing and rediscovering, I think I'm gonna keep it. Particularly for the last 2 shades on the bottom. Like, do you see third on the bottom? Like, what is that? I initially thought I was gonna declutter this because some of the mattes are a little like, when they swatch, but the thing with a lot of their mattes is that they don't swatch well, but they do perform well, so keeping. Okay, this is the Cute AF palette. This was another one of their like initial releases where there's like no shade names. And as I was swatching these, this is also one that I knew that I was gonna declutter probably. Outside of this kind of darker shade, a lot of what's in here is quite similar. So yes, I was probably right in thinking I would declutter this one. Okay, this is I Think I Love You. And this is, I would consider this a neutral palette. Outside of maybe that yellow and some things that lean warm, when you look at swatches, it's kind of neutral. You can do a really neutral look with this. And I think because of that, I'm gonna declutter because I have these shades or similar shades in other of their palettes. This is You Had Me at Hello, and it has the same vibe as the previous one, but this one leans cooler. I think this one's really, really good. If I were someone that wore cool tone shadows a lot, I would probably keep this, but we're gonna declutter. And those are swatches. I mean, they're beautiful shadows. This is not a color story that I gravitate towards like regularly. This next one is Double Entendre. Am I saying that right? I don't know. Okay, again, a lot of basic shades in here, and they are beautiful. You have 3 kind of shimmers, 1 matte that has some glitter in it, and the rest are all mattes. So very beautiful, but I'm going to declutter this one. Okay, this is Good Sport, and I feel like from the initial launch of eyeshadow palettes from Colourpop, there's a point where like they just became amazing. And I think this is one of them that displays that. So whenever I look at this, I'm just like, shade selection is very interesting. I really love the color story, and the quality of these are amazing. I mean, look at these swatches. That kind of glimmery peach with like purple sparkle is called Rookie. I mean, just so beautiful. Keeping this one. This next one is called Rendezvous, and it's another one of their palettes where I look at it and I feel very inspired and excited to use. And again, the formula is fantastic. There we have swatches of this one. This one is called Sweet Nothings, and I believe was released the same time as Rendezvous. I thought I was going to declutter this. Okay, I'm like trying how to not be in all these reflective ones shows me, it shows the camera. Okay, so I thought I was gonna keep this, but then swatching it, I was like, you know, I could let go of this palette except for this shade. It's called Popular Demand. And there's Popular Demand right there. Like, I think that is so beautiful. I need to see if I have some kind of, either if it's in one of the other palettes, otherwise I'm gonna declutter this one because that's like the one shade I really want to keep. The rest of them are just, they're beautiful, but again, more cool tone. And then the shimmers, metallic type shades are a little more pastel than I prefer. It's definitely like a pretty spring palette that's like feminine. Okay, so I went through my like entire keep pile to find Popular Demand, which is, I did a big swatch so I could find something. I think that the shade Fortunate in the Fortunate in the Fortune palette actually looks close. And then this is another shade, I think it's like 500, also in this Fortune palette. So between those two, I can do without that, which means that the Sweet Nothings palette can go into the declutter pile. Okay, so for the element of surprise, there was this shade called Rayon in here that I was like, I need to know what that is to see if I have something similar. So huge swatch of Rayon because gorgeous. And I tried to find a dupe, had to move those out of the way. Whenever there's something in the background, it wants to focus on whatever's darker. So top swatch is Rayon. I tried to find a dupe. This color over here is quite similar. And it's also in the Fortune palette. This has so many shades that I just like really gravitate towards. And it's this shade right here called Miser. That's the swatch of Miser, so quite similar. And then in the palette that I made myself, there's this shade called Misty. And that is a swatch of Misty. So I feel like with those two, I kind of have Rayon, so we'll then declutter the element of surprise. Okay, so this is the keep pile. We have 6, 7, 8, 9 Colourpop palettes that we are keeping. And in the declutter pile, we have 6 plus 1, so we're decluttering 7. I think this was also a very successful declutter. I'm very excited. I know it sounds, I'm not excited, but I'm literally, I'm so tired. Filming declutters is very like swatch and wipe and more and focus and swatch and wipe and focus the palettes. I know. Anyway, but they're fun because I'm feeling all the declutters I've done today, I feel very happy about. All right, moving on to more.